first ever interview series. Oh, we have to mute this. Hold on.
When is this from? Should we check the date? Let's check the date while we are at the beginning. Oh, this last year, June 15 last year. Wow, welcome.
That's my problem. There we go. This is our first interview. We're going to start doing this a little bit more. Try to build up the channel a bit. Try to...
Toad, maybe you should have asked Katie for some powder. You're looking a bit shiny.
Have something and it's not yours, you don't take it, that kind of stuff. You know, basics.
Let whoever's watching and fans of the band interact with the band and get a little more information about the band.
Oh! What is he drinking? This was last year. And I just paused it, not for that, because I didn't realise the drinking was going on, but over here on the right, we've got Rob, the actual singer of the band. I'll rewind here because, wow, mate, are you drinking? You think you're drinking and you're doing a little sippy sip sip.
Oh, there we go. This is our first interview. We're going to start doing this a little bit more. Try to build up the channel a bit. Try to let whoever's watching and fans of the band interact with the band and get a little more information about the band and what goes into.
That was a huge glass of red wine. Wow. That was a huge fucking glass of red wine.
Ben?
I thought he didn't drink. This would have been when Katie was starting her channel too. So they both started their channel. Who's going to be the one that catches the fish? Look at all the stuff that he's got in his room. Oh my God, Toad is so fucking nightmare.
This is you guys' first album in 8 years, which, I mean, having children, you kind of realize the passage of time in a kind of grim, surprising way. I think with this album, it feels a lot more personal than your other two albums have been. Would that be a correct assessment?
Is it weird to anybody else that Toad is in the middle and Rob's on the side? Like, really, Rob is the front man of this band. He should be in the middle. I feel like Toad thinks that he's the front man. He does play all the instruments and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, for me, absolutely. And I don't want to, I know Todd's got a little bit of a leg, so I decided to jump in. But lines, you know, like ideas of songs I wanted to do or lyrics I wanted to do. But a lot of it was kind of John Tardied. The records for me were, when I tried to write lyrics for them, I couldn't get anything that felt right. But this time around, like, the material Todd put together.
I'm going to have nightmares just looking at Toad in the middle. Like, fuck, mate, can you get your lighting right? Whatever's going on. You look shit. This is meant to be promoting your first album in 8 years. And this is the effort that you're putting into it?
Dealing with, I guess, the last 8-9 years. So from my standpoint, yes, it's much more personal.
That's what I've always said. Like, even the lyrics and stuff, they're not Toad's. Rob, you deserve better.
I'll shut up now.
Okay, Todd.
Boy, this will be the, I'm going to try to give the Cliff Notes version of this. Talking about what kind of led up to, I guess, our season.
Oh, for fuck's sake, is he going to get to the point? How long is my video going to be waiting for him to talk?
Deciding that we wanted, and my son was born in October of 2012, and he was born 6 weeks early. And he had a ton of medical issues. He spent a lot of time in the hospital. Doctors couldn't really figure out what was going on with him. He wasn't growing. He wasn't thriving. He couldn't keep food down. So, I mean, fast forward to 3 months into, we were finally able to take him home. So she had to go back to work right away when we finally brought him home from the hospital. So I took some time off from work and I was feeding him and whatever.
This is an interview of Canis Dirus from a year ago. I'll link this article down below. Todd talks about when V stopped breathing. Okay. As it turns out, Paulson will be facing the biggest, most heart-wrenching challenge of his life. What was it exactly that caused this driven artist to abandon his pursuits, and how did he know it was time to return to Canis Dirus? Toad says, 7 years, well, 8 technically, since the new album is scheduled for release in March 2020. In order to properly answer that question, he elaborates, we will need to go back to 2012 when our last album for Moribund Records was released, and about 2 or 3 months later, my first son was born. He was about 6 weeks premature, and my wife had a horrible pregnancy and birth. Needless to say, we didn't get to take him home with us. He had a long hospital stay since he needed to grow his lungs and build up endurance to be able to breastfeed. Well, he wasn't thriving as we had hoped, and the doctors were pretty baffled. When we finally did get to take him home, he was still a little sick. They had given us meds that they thought would help, but he still struggled to eat, keep food down, and ultimately grow. One afternoon, when he was roughly 3 months old, I had given him a bottle, and when he finally struggled through finishing that, he literally stopped breathing and turned blue in my arms. It was devastating. He began to start breathing again, but we rushed him to the trauma bay of the hospital. There, he quit breathing again and had to be intubated. That is when they placed my son on full life support. My wife and I stood by helplessly as about 10 doctors and nurses worked on him to keep him alive. We were confused, to say the least, but even worse, so were the doctors. They took a blood sugar reading and it was 7. They thought the machine was broken, but after a retest, his glucose reading still showed 7. Scary fucking shit, man, as this was the lowest reading recorded on any living patient at that facility. Huh. Still trying to one up on everything. Even you are, Toad. Everything just shut down. He was in full liver and kidney failure, heart failure, couldn't maintain his blood sugar levels. He was in hypothermia. Remember, at this time, the kid was only 3 months old. The kid? Without going into a ton more detail, I'll say that he was finally diagnosed with an extremely rare congenital condition called panhypopituitarism. It's a condition where a person is born without a pituitary gland. It apparently only happens in 1 in 450,000 live births. Without a pituitary gland, my son could not produce the proper hormones, particularly cortisol, which he needs to survive. At 3 months old, he had contracted a simple chest cold, but because of the lack of cortisol, his body began to shut down. I know this is a lot to take in, but believe me, that was just setting the table for what was to come. You both really kind of like cliches, don't you? I know this is a lot to take in, but believe me, that was just setting the table for what was to come. In the interest of trying to be brief, I'll say that for whatever reason, the PHP wasn't the only congenital condition that he ended up with. Over the course of the next 6 years, it was pretty much one diagnosis after the other. It got to the point where we were afraid to take him to the doctor's appointments for fear of finding something else out. As you can probably imagine, I endured a whole host of mental trauma dealing with my son's fragile health. When he was about a year old, I simply put all my guitars in their cases and put away all my gear. 6 years passed and I never picked up an instrument, never had any desire. Life was just too much to deal with. All these emotions, such as grief, anger, fear, confusion, resentment, rage, etc., were taking a huge toll on me, and they started to manifest themselves in some extremely destructive ways.
He just stopped breathing at home, and so we rushed him to the hospital. Long story short, I mean, they couldn't figure out what was going on with him at first.
What I have noticed, though, is when Toad explains the story, he's way more emotional than Katie. Even when he's written about it or he's done interviews on print, the emotion is there in his words, but you would never get that from Katie. Imagine being a partner with Katie and going through this with your son, and you're experiencing emotion and she's so cold.
Come to find out that he was born without a pituitary gland. So he has a lot of congenital, really took a toll on me emotionally, to the point where, it's...
Because he is an artist that expresses himself through his music. It's weird, isn't it, that Toad would have a heart. He wants to come across as intimidating, but he comes across as more like serial killer. But then, I don't know, even serial killers have hearts, don't they? I don't know. Compared to the other end.
I had always told him that, literally there was a time where I had no interest whatsoever in even picking up a guitar. I put all my guitars in their cases and I put them away. Just because it was just,
Wow, because he was numb. I've had a friend go through something similar. One of my friends is in a band. I don't even know how to say this, but yeah, they ended up losing their son when he was 4. And he didn't pick up a guitar for maybe 5 years. He put his guitars in storage. There was no purpose to life. And he was just so numb and unable to express his emotion because he didn't know what he was feeling, what he was going through. Oh my God, I'm understanding Toad here right now. What's going on?
Emotionally, it was too hard. So I would say for about probably 5.5, 6 years of his life, I never even picked up an instrument, never even played an instrument. And then he started to get better because one of his things is that he has a heart issue, and so he had a couple years ago he had open heart surgery. He's 7 now, so a couple years ago he had open heart surgery, and that caused him to start to feel a lot better.
I think when he was 3, he had open heart surgery. So now, if he's 7, that would be 4 years ago. When you're trying to explain such a traumatic thing, it's hard to put a time on it. Like, of course, he's going to get diffused. Why am I absolutely relating to Toad right now? This is weird.
He still has a bunch of medical issues, but again, or at least giving it a shot to see, write some music and just see what happens, and so that's what we did. And for the record, I told Rob this is going to be extremely personal for me because of everything that's been going on, and I've got all this shit inside me that needs to get literally like one of the only ways that I know how to deal with that kind of shit is to create. So fucking around, kind of got a little bit of a better studio situation going. Started throwing together some ideas. It clicked. I mean, it just clicked, and all these but yeah, and then
Here we go. How come it didn't open? Oh, she must have unlisted it. Rob is the voice. Toad is the music.
Just like Father, am I strong enough? Yes, son, stronger than
Is that him?
Father, what's this?
Is that Toad? No. not connecting the music to this film clip at all. I want to know what's going on. I want my money back. I can't seem to find my car keys. I remember I put them near where I was drawing the first little drawings in the sand. Now, who knows? I need to go get a rake. I need to find my car keys. Are they over there? Maybe they're over there. Oh, look how he walks. How tight are your pants? Are they jeggings? Oh my gosh. Yes, you love your runes.
Will she come back? Where did she go?
There's so much that you could have done with this track for the music clip. Do you reckon like Rob's just gone, yeah, Toad, you have full creativity on it. You can create whatever you want. You offer no extraordinary, but undoubtedly personal music, which despite some minor flaws and the use of a drum computer, usually a no-go for me, fascinates me more than most recordings in that style. And you obviously don't limit yourself, but the song Paralyzed We Stand could also have been written as an atmospheric interludium by a melodic, melancholic metal band from the 90s. So I guess your personal tastes and backgrounds in music cover a relatively wide range. It's so fun. What kind of shit is this? Oh, absolutely. Both Rob and I grew up on 80s and 90s metal. So while we are a black metal band, we pull influences from lots of different styles of rock and metal. Bitch, you just said you grew up on 80s and 90s metal. You're still in the same genre. You're not pulling influences from any other genres? Seems a bit pigeonholed. Our music is influenced by many things, but in the beginning it was mostly exclusively rooted in the beautiful scenery of our homeland, and more specifically the North Shore of Lake Superior in northern Minnesota. I live in a small farming town called Hanover, which is only populated by about 2,900 people. There are lots of beautiful lakes and woods near me that are very easily accessible. In fact, I wrote the lyrics to one of our new songs while sitting atop this pretty large hill which overlooks a vast expanse of birch, ash and pine trees. And it was this incredible experience whereby simply sitting there and taking in the scenery and these lyrics just kind of came to me. Shit. That's his little drawings. Todd, you lately drew a shirt design, even the knotted framework for the back print. So you obviously invest way more effort than you will You obviously invest way more effort than will probably pay off in terms of money or recognition by many folks. What is it that makes you literally pour your heart's blood even into these aspects, and who inspires you with similar strong DIY approaches? Yes, I've always been artistically inclined. I love to sketch, draw, and I work with digital editing, and I've recently begun to learn watercolor painting techniques. Much like writing music, art is a very cathartic for me. And as far as Canis Dirus goes, it's kind of a double-edged sword. First, as I may have mentioned before, it's really hard for me to relinquish control. So I much prefer to do the album artwork, the layouts, as well as the t-shirt designs myself. And the other part of that simply comes down to the economics. We simply do not have it in our budget to pay upwards of, in some cases, I've seen $1,000 for somebody to create artwork for us. There are actually a lot of folks who inspired me with the same similar DIY aspect, but the ones off the top of my head that immediately come to mind. Austin Lunn from Panopticon and Chet Scott from Blood of the Black Owl. Thanks, Toad.